Does the soft life mean that you are lazy, or is rest a power move? That is what we are talking about today on the Yoga Socialite Pod. So welcome in, wellness besties. You know how I love to do things short, sweet, and to the point. So we are gonna hop right in.
What's up, wellness junkies? It's the girl with the business brain and yoga body, Sabrina Zealous, welcoming you to Yoga Socialite. This is the place where asana meets aesthetics. So we're here for the good vibes, the cute fits, and the real talk. Let's get into it.
So sometimes we feel like if we're not grinding 24/7 that we're falling behind. And hustle culture has been sold to us as the only way to be successful. If you're not waking up at 5 a.m., running like 10 different businesses, juggling 15 different tasks on your to-do list while sipping an iced coffee, and for me, an iced matcha, then are you even trying, bro? But here is the truth. Hustle and grind mentality are exhausting and outdated. And there are plenty of successful people who, one, just like we talked about last week, move in silence, find that power of silence, and two, can do it through the soft life. And I'm gonna give you some personal examples. I'm gonna give you some real life people that are doing this because you know how I love to do things. I love to keep it real and I love to give you some science as well. So we'll have some scientific things about it. But there are some very powerful people, from CEOs to athletes to even Jesus himself that have rest as part of their strategy, and they were very successful. So we're first going to talk about why I'm in a new location. Why am I not in the hot seat today? I decided not to be in the hot seat because we're talking about the soft life. So I thought I would record from the softest place in our home, la bed, with some pillows, with the laptop that matches the aesthetic. You know how I do. And then another pillow. Welcome to the softest place on earth. Okay. So, some biblical wisdom on rest. Y'all know I love a little biblical wisdom and throwing it into these conversations. You can take it as you would like. But one of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 11:28. And it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Jesus wasn't out here saying, push through, ignore your exhaustion. Let me try to force you to do all these things in 24 hours. He literally invites you to rest. And in Genesis, God himself gave himself the seventh day to rest. That's the Sabbath. I mean, if God is doing it, it can't be too darn bad, huh? Rest isn't weakness, it's truly wisdom. Another verse I'm going to leave you with is Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Sometimes we think we have to hustle to make things happen, but the biggest power moves are actually those when we sit in stillness. And I talked a little bit about this last week when we were talking about the power of silence. Silence can be that same type of thing, that stillness. And of course, I want to give you some other examples. So some CEOs and athletes who prioritize rest. As you hear my little alarm go off because I have to get my nails done today. Very excited. I'm trying a new nail tech. So I'm excited for next week. Maybe I'll do a nail review on her. I'm nervous and excited. I usually go to the same place, but the one time I did not get the two ladies that I usually rotate between, I got someone who damaged my nails so badly, y'all. I'm not going to go off on a full nail tangent. They damaged my nails so badly, and I'm going to tie this into rest, that I had to give myself a rest. I didn't get my nails done. I haven't had my nails professionally done in about 3 months, literally about 3 months. And my nails have healed since then. So again, the power of rest. See how I tied that in? Okay, so first up, we're going to talk about Arianna Huffington, the co-founder of Huffington Post and the founder of Thrive Global. She is global. I haven't had any tea or anything. Please bear with me as I try to pronunciate, and all the outsiates. She literally built an entire empire around the importance of well-being because she once collapsed from burnout. She now advocates for sleep, setting work boundaries, and prioritizing recovery as a successful tool. Many of us have experienced burnout already. And if you haven't and you're on the hustle and grind, you probably will. And this is a good little segue into like me personally. Many of you know when I was in LA, I was all about the hustle culture. It has actually taken me, one of the first posts I made about living in Palm Springs area is that I'm trying to embrace the soft life. And I was wearing like all white and going to sit down in our hot seat chair. But it really has taken some time to embrace. Now, don't get me wrong, my schedule is jam packed. I'm so busy. I literally just threw an open house for the studio that had over 200 people there. I had like 5 or 6 vendors there that I have to monitor. I'm running like 7 classes that day. And then I worked from 7 a.m. to about 5:15. It was a whole thing. It was a whole production. So, yes, even in the soft life, you still have to work. Yes, even in the soft life, you'll be putting in work, but the type of work that you do is different. I set myself up for success for that. I gave myself the day before off because I knew that I was going to be so busy that next day. And then I prioritized self-care. So as I was doing stuff, getting the studio ready, I made sure to leave in enough time to where I could stop, get myself a matcha, get myself a muffin, and allow myself to have some time by myself. I don't mind doing stuff. A lot of people confuse this with me because I always am at the studio in the evenings. I'm at the studio in the evenings because the help that I have at the studio is primarily available in the mornings. They have morning availability. So I'm going to take the help that I can get. And I had to shift my mindset because I am a morning person. Like I'm up at 6 a.m. without an alarm clock, sometimes 5:30 without an alarm clock. But I had to take that and shift my perspective and not be like, oh my gosh, now I have to be there in the evening. Now, mind you, it's a yoga studio. We're done by like 8 o'clock at the latest. But what I did is started prioritizing rest. So in the mornings, I have like a full morning routine. I wake up, I pray as soon as I get up. I do like a few Bible verses that I read daily. I'll do like a little Bible study. As I shower, I listen to Joyce Meyer or I listen to another like encouraging speaker. And then I get ready for my day. I usually have some tea around this time, but my schedule's a little different today. I usually have my tea, I'll have some breakfast, I spend some time with my other half, and I prioritize that in the morning. I keep my mornings like as calm and as peaceful and as much feeding into myself as I possibly can. I embrace the soft life in that aspect so that when I'm at the studio and I have 100 people in front of me that I know all by name. Yes, I do know every member of our studio by name, that I know all by name. I can tap back into that softness that I had that morning and not burn out. And a lot of us don't get to that soft life until we burn out. So I always like to call that out. If you're looking at ways to prioritize rest, I have a friend on Instagram, Radiate Rest. Her name is Samantha Saldivar. She's absolutely amazing. We have been friends since our YogaWorks days when she was the manager at YogaWorks and I was in the teacher training department, and she was one of my favorite studios to come visit. She has an Instagram where she prioritizes rest and gives you little tips and things. So definitely check out Sam. I'll make sure to put her Instagram, if I can, in the description box below. I am recording this before my nail appointment, so fingers crossed here, y'all. But you can just find her at Radiate Rest or look up Samantha Saldivar on Instagram. She's going to pull up for sure. But that is really important. You know, going back to Ariana Huffington, she had to experience a burnout before she had rest. And me being in LA, it was the same thing. Many of you know, if you've been on my journey for a while, and if you're new here, welcome. But many of you know, I was in true hustle culture in LA. Not only was I working for YogaWorks full time, 40 hours a week, and my job entailed me visiting all of our studios in the LA OC area that had teacher trainings, which was like, I want to say like 17 of them that I would go and visit throughout the week. Not only was I doing that, but I taught yoga classes outside of YogaWorks in the morning before my work shift started. Let's say I started at work at like 9:30 a.m. I would have like a 7 a.m. class, and then I would finish my class, go to YogaWorks, either travel to see the studios or work at the studio, work at my office, which was at the Main Street studio. And then after that, I would teach like a 7 p.m. class on my way home. Literally, I would teach about 5 classes per week, as well as worked full time, as well as built my own brand, as well, there's more, as well as created a whole course for yoga teachers, which I led online for like a few different seasons. So I was doing so many things, not to mention like any like corporate wellness events that I was doing or like big yoga events that I was doing on top of all of that. So coming here to the Palm Springs area was a big adjustment, and the fact that I even tried to do the hustle culture here where when I first started, I still tried to keep up the podcast. I'm so happy to be back, but it was so draining at that moment because I had to get used to being back in person at a studio because took everything online. And I tried to still maintain my online library as well as be at the studio full time, and it was so draining and it was wearing down my body. And I've already talked about when I first came to the studio, we were in transition to our beautiful, amazing staff and volunteers that we have now. But I was working a lot of open to close before we got those people in place. And I'm so thankful for those people because they've been with me for this full year. So thank y'all for saving me and helping me to have a soft life in the mornings. But I still try to do that. I wouldn't embrace that softness. It's like I wouldn't give myself grace to say, Bree, you are making just as much money as you were when you were teaching your 5 classes as well as working full time and running your online business. You're making just as much money doing that at your studio. So why don't you put in all your energy and effort at your studio and embrace some grace, embrace some soft life, give yourself a break. And I felt like at first, oh, am I abandoning my online students? We get guilt when we try to embrace the soft life. Guilt starts to come up, or we feel like we're not doing enough because our culture and society praises hustle. We praise the struggle, right? I'm guilty of praising the struggle. But if we embrace that this is what we've manifested, this is what we've prayed for, this is the moment in time that we're actually supposed to be in, if we embrace that, so many more blessings come on top of that. So I gave up my online yoga studio. I put the podcast on hold for a while. Now I've come back. The podcast is more popular than ever. It is more popular than it was when I was recording it back in the day. Now I've come back. I'm not doing my online yoga studio, but I have a partnership with my current studio and I'm doing a big pop-up for them twice a month at a beautiful outdoor zoo for anywhere between however many members they have, hundreds to 200 people each time. And I'm embracing that soft life, and things that I've wanted to do or wanted to accomplish are still coming in, just in a different way. And it takes a lot of mind shifting to get there, and we're going to get into the science behind it. But I always like to call that out. So now that I've given you some real life examples, we're going to get into the science behind it. Wellness really took a huge impact into the world when COVID hit. That is when I've made some very good connections and some amazing contracts and made quite a bit of money when COVID hit because people were finally embracing the soft life, embracing wellness because they realized that if you don't, you're going to have burnout and you're going to get sick. 9 times out of 10, and okay, this isn't a scientific number, but I would say for me personally, 9 times out of 10, anytime I get sick, I never get sick. But anytime I do, it's because I have overworked myself and my body is like hard reset, restarting over, boo. So we want to talk about the science of rest. Science backs up that wellness is needed in the world. Studies show that rest improves productivity, creativity, and even life longevity. Athletes schedule rest days because muscles need recovery to grow stronger. You don't see professional football players playing back-to-back games because of this. Like they have to rest. Like they can't be at this high caliber of their career and not have time to rest in between. Sleep is actually one of the most powerful tools of cognitive function. I love to sleep. I'll take a nap right here if I could, but I have my nail appointment. I got about 10 more minutes of this podcast. This is why wellness trends and slow living and mindful movement and resetting our nervous system, we've talked about that on the pod, are so important. That nervous system regulation, if you're constantly in flight and fight mode, if you have not listened to my Reset Your Nervous System podcast, please do. When your body's in that survival mode, there is not success in that. There is temporary success in that. There is this amidst the chaos success, but the longevity of holding out the success and continuing the things that you are building, you need to have rest. You have to regulate your nervous system to do that. Ignore my little ding reminders to make sure I leave on time. So sorry about that. Actually, let me put my computer on mute. That would be the smart thing to do, right? So how do we embrace that soft life without guilt? You ready to embrace it? Are you ready? First of all, let's pause. Are you ready to embrace the soft life without guilt? Yes or no? Press yes or no. Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. I'm just kidding. But there's always that little voice in your head sometimes, but what if I fall behind? I know that was the case for me. It was like, but I don't want to abandon my online students. My online students were amazing, and many of them are amazing, but many of them came from small studios in the South Bay that closed down during COVID and then stayed with me online. And it was really hard to let that go. But I gave all of them access to the videos, and there's hundreds of videos. I give them all still access to the videos so that they can practice on their own. And I had to trust that I gave them the tools for success on their own and to empower them to go out there. And now that we are back in person in studios, to find a studio home. And it's almost like a parent when they have to entrust, okay, my kid's going off to college. I've given them all the tools and I've set this foundation for them that they're going to be successful in what they do. And they can still come back and ask questions. And if they need help, I'm there. But I also have to enable them to take this next step. So let's give you some steps, 4 steps to be specific, on how to step into a mindset of confidence around the soft girl life. You know, the soft girl life has been trending on social, and that's because I think truly, again, like I mentioned during COVID, we finally realized that there's this correlation of like burnout and working too much. And if you think about European culture, they have siestas and they have holidays where they have like true 30 days off. And then of course, I know some people are going to go, but Europeans don't make as much money as us. Like if you looked at how much Emily in Paris makes, like if you think about the show Emily in Paris, which I freaking love. I've given that as an example before in the pod. If you look at how much she would make in the US as a marketing whatever, my wrist hurts from holding up my laptop, so I'm going to move my laptop. If you look at how much she would make in the US versus how much she would make in Europe, there was like a girl that's like, I'm the real life Emily in Paris. This is how much it costs on TikTok. Try to find her. Anyway, if you look that up, then you would know that there is the amount between the two, it correlates differently. Like we make more here in America in some aspects. I know some people work overseas are going to veto that, but there are times that some jobs make more in America. However, again, embracing that soft life. If you make all of this money and then don't even get to enjoy it, what was the point? There has to be a balance between the two. I'm realistic. I love yoga, but one thing that has always bothered me about yoga culture is that everyone gets so like if I had a commune and I could live off the grid and we could all work together and all the yoga classes were free, and that would be beautiful. And I'm all about karma yoga. Hello, I host an open house each month with free classes all day. So I'm all about that karma yoga. However, we live in a world that has currency. We live in a world where we have bills. Your yoga teacher has bills. She has, or he has, or they have a car payment that they have to use to get to and fro from the studios. So yes, we have to charge things to keep things afloat in the world. And yes, we could get rid of all of it and live, like how we did back in the day and have a barter system and things of that nature, but that's not where we're at in the world. We have to be realistic. There has to be this correlation of having that karma yoga, living in a space to where you are giving back to the world, but also living in a space where you recognize and understand that people have bills to pay, and it is okay for them to be successful in their genre, whatever genre of work that they are doing. And that might be a popular opinion. And I've said that before. And I remember it going viral on Instagram because 50% of yoga teachers were like, yes, thank you for calling that out. We do deserve this. And 50% were like, well, if you got into it for that. None of us got into it for that. A lot of us got into it because we were burnt out from corporate yoga. Or from corporate life, excuse me. We were burnt out from corporate life. We found yoga and then we turned it into a career for ourselves. But if you don't utilize the skills that you had in your corporate life and all you're doing is teaching 1,000 classes a day, you're gonna burn out. Physically, your body could burn out, and then mentally you're gonna burn out because it's a lot of energy export out, and we're talking about energy export in. So, long story short, to our 4 ways to take care of that. Sorry that I had to go on that tangent, but I needed to call that stuff out. Number 1, you're gonna reframe rest as productive. Rest is fuel, it's not failure. Number 2, we're gonna set boundaries. We're gonna protect our peace like it's our full-time job. Number 3, we're gonna prioritize joy. The soft life is about choosing what feels good, not just what looks good on paper. Number 4, we're going to trust the process. Just because you're not forcing something doesn't mean it won't happen. I want to read number 4 again because that's a big one. Just because you are not forcing something does not mean that it's not going to happen. A lot of times you have to let go to receive. That's Ram Dass. If you don't know who Ram Dass is, please go down a Ram Dass rabbit hole. I love Ram Dass. Be here now. All right, loves. I've been chitting and chatting with you for about 20-ish minutes now. And I want to give you just a little closure as we wrap this up. This is your permission slip to rest. Rest is not lazy. You know, I mentioned at the beginning of the pod, a lot of people think that I'm not a morning person because I close at the studio in the evenings. So they think that, oh, Sabrina doesn't like the mornings. It's not that I don't like the mornings. It's that I've embraced, 1, the help that I've been given, which is in the mornings. And then 2, I've embraced that and started to create a culture for myself of rest, charging back into myself to be able to be the most productive version of myself when I am there. And I want to challenge all of you to do that. This is your permission slip. You are allowed to rest. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to go with ease. You can get so much accomplished even if you are calm about it, even if you're moving in silence like we talked about before. The soft life isn't lazy. It's a power move. Now, if this episode spoke to you, I want you to share it with a friend. I want you to tag me. I want you to follow me on socials, Yoga Socialite everywhere, and let me know. I'm going to make, of course, little clips about this pod. So I would love to hear back from you in the comments and your feedback. But breathe deep, move with intention, and stay soft. Thank you for listening and or watching. Have a beautiful day.